Hello from Envu Ornamentals. My name is Steve Larson. I am the greenhouse and nursery sales specialist for Envu in the South Central region of the United States. And I'm going to talk to you about our 2026 Envu Early Order Program. I want to walk you through the details of the program so that you can understand all the different elements of savings that are available to you in this year's EOP. This year's early order program begins on September the 1st and runs through December the 4th. And our agency payment terms, in other words, these are extended payment terms that apply to agency products that are purchased during the EOP, aren't due until June the 4th, 2027. Think of agency payment terms as a free loan that is extended to growers that participate in the EOP and buy our agency products that begin in September and are interest-free loan all the way through June. So we offer that to help out your cash flow and hope that you'll take full advantage of that in this year's program. Eligible products in this year's program are our agency products as listed below: Altus, Broadform, Contos, Marengo, Marengo G, and Savat. And we've also included a number of our most popular non-agency products that would include Aria, B9, Floramite, Shuttle, Talstar Select, and Taclara. Now, Taclara might sound like a new product to many of you. It's really the former Alliette. When we were divested from Bayer, they asked us to change the name of Alliette, and that new name is now Taclara, and it's been registered through the EPA and with state registration authorities and is now available for sale. So we decided to add it into the lineup. So these are 12 products that represent about 85 to 90% of the total product sales that we have on our ornamentals portfolio of products. And so what we're doing is offering what we think are the best products for you during the EOP and for you to enjoy savings on what I think are the most popular products in our program and in our portfolio. Let me walk you through just a summary of the elements of the program. I'll get into more detail about each one of these. But first of all, we have off-invoice agency discounts. This obviously applies to the agency products, which can receive as much of as a 15% off-invoice discount on the front end. That would be for Contos. The other agency products receive up to a 10% discount on the front end, which is based on the volume that's purchased during the EOP. The second element of savings is a rebate. So this is a little bit different than the discount I just mentioned. And the rebate is something that's paid out later on after we've collected on all of the extended payment terms next summer. The rebates on the non-agency products can vary between 5% and all the way up to 17%. Depends on each individual product. It varies. And minimum quantities do apply, but I think they're fairly reasonable minimums so that most growers can participate in these rebate savings. The third savings is an element that we call multi-brand rebates. This applies to our agency products, and it rewards those growers who are purchasing across our agency product portfolio and are buying multiple brands. So if you purchase anywhere between 3 to 5 or 6 of our agency brands, growers can receive between a 2 and 4% rebate, again, based on a purchase minimum of those agency products. And then finally, we aggregate all of the purchases made throughout the entire EOP window from September through early December, and we pay out a rebate on the basis of their total EOP purchase. That can run up to a maximum of 7%, but allows a lower reward for smaller purchases, so it allows some of the smaller growers to participate in our EOP program. I'll get into details on each one of these as we move along. But one of the things I always like to do when I'm talking about EOPs is to provide, based on my experience, I've been doing this for a number of years, on how to best make the most out of your EOP purchasing experience. First of all, I suggest that growers take a look at their historical product use, not your product purchase history, but really your use history when you're thinking about your EOP orders. For example, make sure you factor in your preventative treatments. If you're going to be making preventative treatments on crops in the fall or in the spring, make sure you add those products into your EOP consideration because you know what you're going to use and you ought to be able to predict pretty accurately exactly how much you're going to need for the upcoming season, whether it's in the late fall or whether it's in the spring or late spring. Secondly, with regards to your insecticides, miticides, and fungicide purchases that you might be making outside of the spring window. So those are maybe products that you may not have thought of using in a preventative treatment that you might just want to have on hand for some outbreaks that might be unanticipated. Those tend to be a little less predictable. They can vary from year to year just because some years we have more pressure with insects than we do with others. Same with mites and plant pathogens. So be a little bit more conservative with those purchases. I'm not saying for you to not make those during EOP. I think EOP is the best time to save, so you need to buy some, but just don't get too far out over your skis with those because you don't want to go into late summer and be thinking about, oh wow, I wish I hadn't purchased those. I really didn't really need them. So let's make sure that we're a little less, or a little bit more, excuse me, conservative with those types of purchases. Herbicides, especially pre-emergence herbicides, tend to be very predictable. You usually know exactly the square footage for those of you that might be using them on greenhouse floors, or the acres for those of you that might be using those in the nursery. You tend to know exactly what those acreages, those square feet are going to be, and you can be much more predictive with your EOP purchases. Therefore, I tell you, be a lot more aggressive. Buy what you think you're going to need for the entire year during EOP, because I don't think you're going to see these kinds of savings during the non-EOP or in season, so to speak, and the EOP is really the time to buy those products. I'm going to talk at the end a little bit about an EOP calculator, which is a great tool for both distributors and growers to use for creating and predicting EOP savings. I think it's a tool that really needs to be utilized by everyone. And it can be something where you can play around with it, add numbers in, change the numbers so you can see what your overall savings might be. Again, I'll get into that with a little bit more detail as we move along. All right, as I said, I was going to get into some detail, so let's talk about the off-invoice discounts. Here's an example, a table actually that I took right out of our program that shows you in the far right column the potential off-invoice volume discounts that can be achieved. And then we have the minimum quantities that you might apply for each of those respective discounts by product. So you can see that the quantities will vary by product and the discounts vary by the quantities purchased by product. But this is a pretty helpful table for you to see what those discounts might look at. I want to speak specifically to Contos because it differs a little bit from the other agency products. And as you see, our quart bottles, which has become our most popular size to sell of Contos, we've upped the ante a little bit this year with that product. You can get up to a 15% discount when you exceed 16 or more bottles purchased. On the other hand, one of the Contos historical SKUs, which is the 250 milliliter bottle, it's about 8 ounces, that is still an agency priced product. However, it is not a part of this year's EOP. So I wanted to make it clear that the quarts are the products that I'll be talking about with regards to upfront discounts and some of the other rebates that could be earned, especially as it applies to Contos. One quick thing to note here is that the discounts are based off of each individual invoice. So as growers place orders, make sure that they maximize their order on each individual particular invoice so that they can maximize their potential savings. We don't like to aggregate those invoices. However, I will say that we will make some exceptions to that. with prior approval. So this would apply, let's say, to some of the larger growers that might have multiple growing locations. We will make some exceptions with their individual invoice requirement, but for those other growers, for the most part, make sure that they're purchasing the maximum amount per invoice so that they can reach the highest rebate or, the highest discount levels and savings. The second element of the program I want to talk about are the volume buy rebates. This applies to our non-agency products. You can see them listed here. And these are rebates that are earned per unit purchase. So for each bottle or each bag that's purchased, I guess in this case, most everything is in a bottle, with the exception of B9. We can offer these rebates on a per unit basis as long as those minimum quantities have been achieved that you see listed in the minimum quantity column. Now, what's nice about these rebates is these are aggregated. So growers can buy, rebuy, and rebuy again throughout the EOP window. We'll roll up all of those purchases, and as long as they reach those minimum quantities for the entire EOP period, they'll earn the rebate on a per unit basis. With regards to multi-brand rebate, I touched on this briefly. This applies to our agency products that you can see listed here in the table on the right. You see the minimum purchases required of each of those brands, and when they reach a minimum purchase of a brand during the EOP, then that particular brand will qualify. When they've had 3 to 5 or 6 brands qualify, they'll earn the rebates that you see below, 2%, 3%, or 4%, which applies to both 5 or 6 brands purchased. So this is another great element. Last year, this was very popular with growers, and we've added it in again this year. As I mentioned in the previous slide, all of your rebates, all of your purchases will apply. They're aggregated through the course of the EOP for each brand. So if you buy a brand multiple times or from multiple distributors, we'll roll those up at the end of the EOP period, and those totals of those aggregated purchases will result in the products that qualify. And last but not least is the total EOP volume rebate. I like this particular element because purchases start or rebates start at purchases of 5,000 or more. So that allows a lot of smaller, mid-sized growers to earn a rebate. And you see the base incentives. It applies to those products that were purchased throughout the EOP, both agency and non-agency. We aggregate those total purchases, and then those purchases we'll place them into a tier. Now, I need to qualify something here. Is that only the EOP purchases of agency products are going to receive rebates. However, the non-agency product purchases will count towards the total purchase volume. And so that's important, those non-agency purchases, to help you get into a higher tier so you earn higher rebates on your agency products. The base incentive for those rebates are between 2 and 5%, depending on the respective volume you see on the left. This year, we've upped the ante from 1% to 2% for those of you that place your orders in September. I mentioned that earlier in the presentation, that's an important time to order. There's no reason not to. That's money on the table for you. And we pay an additional 2% for you early birds that get your orders in to your distributors, and then those orders that get entered into the distributor system. That base plus the bonus can total up to 7%, and so that's a significant reward that can be earned on, again, on the agency products that are purchased. I want to talk just a second about the ornamentals calculator. This calculator is such a helpful tool. I use it when I'm talking with growers about what their historical purchases were during last year's EOP, let's say, for an example, or through the course of the year. I look at their purchases and say, hey, if you'd included those purchases in the EOP, you would have earned a little bit more. And so this just gives me an opportunity to show them where they might make their ultimate savings and how to improve on those savings. How this calculator works, and it's something that will be active, by the way, on October the 1st, excuse me, on September the 1st. I got ahead of myself. Uh, September the 1st, this calculator will be made available for growers and distributors to use to predict their orders and to enter information in. All of the cells that are shaded in purple here are cells that can be changed and manipulated and increased or decreased just depending on what you want to do. Upper left-hand corner helps distributors to identify who they might have filled one out for, save it, and then come back and change it for a different grower. Make sure if you're placing your order in September, you have that cell on the upper right-hand corner marked as yes. And as you enter the information in there, then the green shaded cells will begin to populate, showing the various bonuses and incentives, rebates, etc., that will be earned. I find this to be super helpful because at the bottom of the spreadsheet, which I can't show here, but I can put on this particular slide, it takes all of the information you entered in that previous slide, and then it totals it up here in a very simple summary table, and it puts it in black and white numbers. Now this allows the distributor to talk to the grower. This allows the grower to speak to their managers and show them exactly what the savings are, because we understand that a lot of growers are making significant commitments to the business by making these purchases in September. And while the grower may realize the benefits of the savings, maybe the managers don't see that. And this is an opportunity for the growers to sit down with their managers and show them exactly in black and white what those savings might look like. For example, in the order that I put in just the previous slide, without the EOP, they would have been spending $90,000, a little over $90,000 for those particular products. But because of the savings that will be realized in this year's EOP, that amount from $90,000 actually drops down to $74,695. That's a savings of $15,365 for the grower. That's real savings that goes in the pocket to the bottom line of the business, and I think that will be very impactful when growers are visiting with their management. Also, we like to show them what that percentage is. That's a 20% savings, which is a sum of both the early order estimated off invoice discounts as well as the estimated rebates earned through the various rebate elements, for a total of savings that is 20.2%. Again, when a grower can show that to their management, it's a pretty compelling reason for them to consider making an early order program purchase. So let's just run back through those again real quickly, and I've got one more slide to show distributors about incentives for them. We've got off invoice discounts that comes right off of the agency products, off of the invoice. We have non-agency product rebates based on minimum quantities purchased. For those agency brands that are multiple brands that are purchased, we have rebates up to 4%. And then finally, we have a sum of purchases, aggregated purchases that fall into a volume tier that earn rebates as high as 7%. Great ways to stack savings. They're all stackable. They're all independent of one another, and it's a great way to get savings. I find that growers can earn somewhere between 10 to 15% for the smaller medium growers through our EOP. Larger growers can earn in excess of 20%, 21, 22% if they maximize all of the elements of the EOP. And I don't want you to forget about the agency payment terms. Those are very important terms, and those are real savings, kind of hidden savings, but real savings in terms of delayed payments on June the 4th of 2027 for the agency products. Now, one last slide here for you distributors. This is where DSR managed distributors can earn a 2.5% incentive for every dollar sold during the EOP. This is all of the agency and non-agency qualifying products that you see. This is a significant savings. It's not really a savings, it's just a significant incentive that you can earn. And for example, if you book $10,000 worth of EOP orders, that's a $250 DSR saving earnings. Make sure though that you add your name to an Envu Horizons account. If you haven't registered yet for an Envu Horizons account, if you're new to Envu this year, make sure you go into envuhorizons.com. It's a very simple form to fill out. That'll create an account where we'll deposit, not really the dollars, but we'll deposit a corresponding number of points that you can turn into dollars via a check, or you can get gift cards, you can get various kinds of catalog items. This is all free money for you to earn as a DSR. And we commonly have DSRs that will write in excess of $100,000 in EOP orders or more. $100,000 would earn $2,500 into your account. So make sure you take advantage of this. This is a terrific program, and we hope that you will take full advantage of it. All right, with that is all of the information that I have. I'm going to leave this up here for just a second while I close. I just wanted to identify quickly the members of our team. My name, as I said at the outset, is Steve Larson. You see my information down at the bottom there. I cover the states that are in red. Brian McCaffrey is our Southeast rep. You see his information below in the lower right, his state's in light blue. Pete Farno is our general manager of the ornamentals business, the business manager. He's the individual that we report to, and Pete does a great job managing the ornamentals business for us nationwide. My colleague Bob Froelich is in the upper right-hand corner there. You see his states covered from the Great Lakes up to the Northeast, and you see Bob's contact info. And then Edgar Tuna is our colleague out west. Edgar lives down in San Diego, California area and covers all of the western states, including Alaska and Hawaii. And last but certainly not least is our technical manager, Dr. Jana Beckerman, who resides in Colorado. Jana is our technical support individual, covers the entire United States. And you see all of our contact information there. I hope that you're able to get that written down for your respective area. We're going to be making some changes later this year. We're going to be adding a new territory up in the northeastern United States. So Bob's territory is going to get reduced a little bit, as is my territory. I'm going to lose a little bit of my territory to Bob. But it's an exciting time for our business. We're adding a fifth territory later this year. Now that fifth territory represents the growth that we've experienced here at Envu. And we do appreciate all that you do to support us and the sales that you make, because it's been an exciting time for us. I think we have exciting times ahead, not only for our business, but for all of you. We have some new things coming in 2027 that we're looking forward to rolling out to you. And we hope that all of you will have an outstanding finish to 2026, and we look forward to a very successful 2027. Best of luck, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.